We reported on the intensifying confrontation between the U.S. and Iran in the Gulf. Now, one key element of that conflict is the civil war in nearby Yemen, with Iran aiding the Houthi rebels and the U.S. backing the Saudi-led coalition supporting the government. But the Trump administration's Yemen policy is not popular in Congress, and as the U.S. House of Representatives moves to end American involvement in that bloody conflict, violence in Yemen continues, leaving civilians at the mercy of those pulling the trigger. Our Middle East correspondent Emily Rose takes a closer look.
Continued turmoil in Yemen. The Iranian-backed Houthi movement launches 5 drones at a Saudi airport, leaving this damage in its wake.
I was waiting for my sister's arrival from Riyadh, and while waiting I heard a big blast, and then the fire pushed me far away.
Officials didn't report any casualties, and the airport is running normally now. But the attack comes just 2 days after a similar one at the same location wounded 26 people. And amid boiling tension, as the U.S. blames Iran for an attack on 2 oil tankers off the Gulf of Oman. And the Saudis concur.
When we connect those terrorist acts, we can say, yes, they are connected, and there is a huge, and of course there is escalation by the Iranian regime.
The bloody war in Yemen, which started in 2015, is often seen as the battleground of the war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, with a Saudi-backed coalition battling the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. U.S. involvement in the war is controversial. It has included the refueling of jets and providing intelligence information to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. According to the UN, the fighting in Yemen has killed at least 7,000 civilians and injured 11,000 others, while thousands of civilians have died from malnutrition and disease, in conditions described by many as the worst humanitarian crisis of our time. And the lives of the 22 million people caught up in the war in Yemen hang in the balance. Emily Rose, I-24 News.
Well, that proxy war in Yemen could be moving now to a more direct conflict between the U.S. and Iran. And for more on that, we're joined from our New York studios by Camelia Entekhabifard. She is the editor-in-chief of Independent Persian. Camelia, thanks for joining us. Iran, of course, denying involvement in these tanker attacks. Is there any plausible scenario where that could be possible? And if so, who else could be involved here?
It's an interesting question. I'm hearing from the Iranian reporters and people inside Iran. They were blaming some other nations, other people want to sabotage the talks between Iran and the United States by conducting such an attack to blame Iran for that. But simply, even if we believe it wasn't directly channeled from Iran, and the group associated with Iranian regime, such as the Houthis, as they took the responsibilities from the previous attacks in Fujairah, may attack these 2 naval ships in coast of Oman. It's simply those people also were protecting Iranian interests in the region, and such a group cannot done anything without Iranian assistance and help. These Houthis, the very small group of the Shia, which today are capable to launch missile attacks in Saudi Arabia, as you said in the reports, to the airport, and also attack the oil tankers in the water of the Persian Gulf and others, cannot do such things if Iranian doesn't found it and help them with equipment. I heard the report. It's heartbreaking to see millions of Yemenis were suffering from the war and nutrition issues. But we have to see the point has been raised by Saudi Arabia that they don't want to let in their border side a group like Hezbollah has been born and become so powerful to be always conduct a threat against of them. It's difficult to say who might exactly done these attacks, but there is no one in the region wants to threat its own stability and the economy by having such an act against their own interests to prevent Iran and the U.S. talks. If Iran wants to talk to the U.S., there are lots of channels has been open for them, but they were rejecting so far.
Well, is there any possibility of those talks? We heard both President Trump and the supreme leaders seem to say at this time it's not possible. Is there a possibility in the near future?
To me, it seems Iranians are more interested first have talks with the regional countries and then come to talk to President Trump. Zarif, in the past 2 weeks ago, hardly advertising the plan of the non-aggression treaty with the regional countries. And even yesterday, right after President Trump's tweet and the regional taking sides about it, the Iranians were behind of this attack, Zarif asked about why don't you have this treaty to secure the stability of the region by talking to the Iranian over this treaty, which they were proposing in the past few weeks. But this is not the way. If they want to talk to the region has been lost its trust to the Iranians. And perhaps they were thinking first they have to talk to the region, let the American leave the Persian Gulf's water and the regional countries, and by then they can sit and talk with President Trump. It's quite very unlikely at this stage because these attacks can be repeated again, and we could see Americans would have a stronger presence and even may escorting the oil tankers in the coming days to prevent any other attacks, maybe from Iran or their supporters, to be conducted. And yesterday, quickly, President Trump said Iran is not ready, and we are not ready to talk. Maybe the messages has been carried from the Prime Minister of Japan, hasn't been positively replied by Iran's supreme leader.